beautiful friends. Welcome to the Best Mom Ever podcast, your place for learning how to create a close relationship with your teen, even if they have already shut you out. I'm Allison, and I want to help you get out of struggle and into trust, happiness, and confidence with your teen without throwing pills at the problem. Thanks so much for listening, and we are glad you're here. Hello, everyone. This is Allison. Welcome to my Best Mom Ever podcast, where I give you the tools you need to create the relationship that you dream of. I am honored to be your host and connect with you and support you on your parenting journey. So today on our very first podcast, I want to talk to you about values. Coaches love to talk about this, and I am no exception. So let's dig in. I'm super excited. When I talk to moms about what they want in their relationships with their teenagers, it can be a real challenge sometimes. So I'd like to help create some clarity around that for you today, because what I find happens is often moms find themselves talking about what they don't want. I want my teen to stop fighting with her sibling. I want my teens to just get in the car without me having to yell at them. I want my teen to stop being disrespectful, rude, or entitled. I want my teen to not slam the door. I want my teen to get off their phone, come out of their room, or clean it at the very least. I want my teen and I to stop fighting. I want to stop fighting with my daughter about emptying the dishwasher. And these are all reasonable goals. But what happens is it's sort of a shift. We're kind of focusing too much on the problem and circling around with it with ourselves in our brains. And we're trying to solve it. And it's easy then to just really go round and around in the hamster wheel and get stuck. So what I find to be more effective is to focus on the solutions that we want, the outcomes that our heart desires. And then the thing that we want, like we're really motivated to pursue and create in our life. So it can be really tempting here to try and escape pain to provide temporary relief to whatever the problem is. But I believe that what will work better in the long term is to clarify our values, the one thing that we ultimately want most. So I'm going to share with you today some of the things that I think are common values, and you may choose to approach them in a new way as you lean into this way of thinking. Are you ready? Let's do it. So, big common challenge for moms, they want respect. Yes. So respect is a value. So one of the things that I find is particular about this particular value is that there was a paradigm in the generation before, the generation that parented the moms that are parenting teens right now, where respect didn't have to be earned, but it did have to be given. So it was something that we were sort of trained. You need to respect the adults around. Children are seen and not heard. That was a common one. And it was maybe starting to fade somewhat, but in general, adults got respect. So we get to kind of think about this one in a little bit more of a complex way, or kind of pull it apart a little bit to try to make it feel a little bit more accessible. So if we think about respect as something that we want in our homes with our teens, then we get to think about self-respect as a value and not necessarily needing it to be given by someone else for it to be had by us and maintained as a value of something that we think is important. That's a lot. So self-respect as a value. I am respecting my time by setting healthy boundaries for myself. I'm respecting my body by eating healthy food, getting some exercise. I am telling people what I need when I need it so that I can prevent people from creating situations for me that make me feel disrespected. So I'm creating respect rather than expecting my teen to give it to me. And then we get to give respect as a practice. So using our manners, apologizing when we're wrong, modeling respect in our tone, in our body language. How are we respecting our teens? How are we creating a culture of respect in our families? Sound amazing? It can be. Yeah, I'm super excited for you guys. Hopefully, this is really, really helpful. Okay, another super common value here is going to be connection. So, what does connection feel like for you? How do you want to be connected with your teen? This may be physical proximity, how comfortable we are being in each other's space, being quiet together, not necessarily needing to talk, fill the space with conversation. So, if we really want to be connected to our teen, how is that going to affect the way that we look at them, the way that we greet them? If we want to be connected to our teen, we are going to create safety and trust. We're going to really listen for those boundaries, the thing that our teen says, Mom, I really don't like it when you blank such and such. We get to really be attuned to that and create more connection with our teen. And so we're moving toward the things that we really want. And in theory, some of the problems, some of the challenges that we've been facing slowly fade away. So creating opportunities to create more trust in our relationship with our teenager so that we really feel connected with them. They feel connected with us. Beautiful, beautiful things. Okay, communication. Oh, man, this is going to be a really tough one with teens. How was your day? Fine. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know. So, how do we model connection? I'm sorry, how do we model communication? Do we text our teen to let them know we're going to be a few minutes late picking them up because we want them to turn around and text us when they've got something going on and they might be running late? This can look like being honest about the reasons that we might seem grumpy or unavailable so that they don't internalize that and think that it's them, because teens can't help it. They think that they are the reason that things are good. They think that they are the reason that things are bad. They're just still kind of processing things in that way. So, thinking about communication as a value. So, yeah, again, body language, eye contact, being present. What are our nonverbals like? I know it is super hard, moms and dads, but we have to put our phones down too, because otherwise we are not communicating the values that we want our kids to take on. How's everybody doing? Checking in. Oh my goodness. I hope that this is really resonating with you guys. Okay, kindness. Do you guys have kindness as a value in your homes? It's been a really popular one recently. People like to talk about kindness. If siblings are fighting, we want to reinforce this kindness value. We want our teens to be kind to us for sure. So, how are we creating this as a value in our homes? How are we treating the dog? I am super guilty of this one. I'm like, the dumb dog. And then, I hear my kids say it and I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing a good job here. I need to model more kindness. What about at the grocery store? Are we kind to other shoppers? Are we kind drivers? Oh, that's a really tough one. What about the way we treat each other? Our partners, our kids' dad? What about our other relationships? Our relationships with their grandparents, our parents, our friends. We get to model kindness in all of these places and teach it as a value. And isn't it incredible to think about if we can really be successful at this? More kindness in our homes. Yes. All right. Transitioning away from kindness. What about education? It becomes super, super important. Let's get our homework done. Let's get into the right colleges. We think about this one a lot when our kids are teenagers. This is setting up your future. We want our kids to be successful, don't we? So, if education is our value, how do we get to model this? How do we get our kids to think about our values? So, education. We get to be curious. We get to wonder. I wonder. We get to ask great questions. Be really thoughtful about the kinds of things that we're asking our kids. Let's get beyond how was your day? Let's find out what they're thinking about. Let's be curious. Are we modeling being learners? Let's read in front of our kids. Let's read together. If education rings true for you as a value, how do you get your kids to think about education as something that's valuable? What kinds of questions can you ask them? Okay, here's another one. Confidence. We want our teens to be confident, don't we? We want that confident daughter. So how are we communicating her value to her? How are we talking about ourselves? If we want our daughters to be confident, we need to be comfortable talking about our strengths. It's not always about self-esteem. Let's build her up. Let's tell her how great she is. Let's think about that in a different way. How do we teach her to be resilient? Let's cultivate a little grit, right? How could we have done that better? Or when we are praising, right? We're not praising the A, we're praising the effort. That's a common one. You guys know that. How am I doing, guys? First podcast. Super excited. So glad to share. My sound guy is going to have some fun modulating the volume on this one. Okay. Confidence. Beautiful. All right. Now I'm going to share some of my values and how I like to approach them in my relationships and as a parent. So just because I've identified these as my values doesn't mean that you can't use them as well. You get to choose in your own family what your values are. Okay, so this is my favorite value, and it is unconditional love. I always think of the runaway bunny. I don't know if you guys know that children's story. It was like my first interaction with unconditional love as a child. So I love that story. There's like a little rabbit and he's like, keeps running away and his mom goes to all these crazy, ridiculous heights to continue to be his mama, if you don't know the story. So anyway, unconditional love is that the essence of my child will always be worthiness. There is nothing that you could ever do to make me stop loving you. Yeah. So what about when we have a values conflict with our child? Super hard, super common right now. The way that this generation of teens is coming up right now thinks is radically different from previous generations. I've heard people say that they're more sensitive. They are very aware of diversity, cultural issues, the planet, and they often have somewhat rigid, I'll say, high standards for other people agreeing with their values. So it can be really, really tough if you're a parent that doesn't align with your kids' values. So giving lots of empathy for you if this is you and you feel like you have a huge values conflict with your kiddo. And how do we communicate unconditional love in that case? I was doing a podcast interview that you'll get to hear pretty soon with Lindsay Law, and we were talking about this evolving idea about how communicating unconditional love is done through unconditional acceptance. That's actually the language that we are able to share with our kids, that we love them unconditionally. Is that regardless of the context, that we love them. You fail that test or do something unkind, violate our family's values, we still love you. All right. Growth. This is my fave. I'm just such an imperfect human. Any other imperfect humans out there? I just get to keep leaning into this idea of, well, I'm still growing. I'm still growing. Also, I really love nature and trees and just the growth outside. And so it's just a super fun thing for me to relate with. But when I miss the mark, when I am not as kind as I would like to be, or don't have my boundaries intact, or when I don't have the confidence, I get to grow. When it comes to my kid too, right? Like, our children are by their very nature developing, and they're going to make mistakes. A small, uncoordinated child is going to spill milk sometimes, and just being like, oh, okay, this is where you are in your life. You get to grow from here. Uh, let's see, a young woman struggling to fit into the education system. Maybe it wasn't built for her brain, but she gets to keep growing and learning. Growth. We make mistakes. Okay, so creativity is another super big value for me. I have always been a super creative person. Some of my earliest memories are with crafts and crayons and, oh, those treasures. I love to be creative. I love all types of creativity. I enjoy being around creative people, and I just really have a lot of respect for that. I think there's a certain amount of courage that's required to be creative, because there is no perfection. There's only the art, and the mistakes are or the imperfections are kind of what makes it unique and beautiful. And you have to be able to put yourself out there and be creative and try something new and be willing to fail. Yeah, that'll be another great topic in the future, is talking about that failure reframe. But the thing that I'm learning about creativity as I continue to mature and grow as a human being is that it is this opportunity for resilience. So life is hard sometimes. We struggle. Like, it isn't always easy. And okay, so we get the option then, when things are hard, when things are rocky, do we suffer? Do we live in suffering? Do we beat ourselves up? And I guess my challenge is to myself and to everyone else, like, where can we be more creative? We are always a choice. There's always another option that we haven't thought of yet. There's a way to look at this challenge, this problem, that we haven't currently explored. And if we push creativity farther into the next level, then we can save ourselves so much suffering. So creativity as a value, as something that I am teaching in my family, that we're not going to just dwell in suffering. We're going to go through it. We're going to feel our emotions, and all the spectrum of emotions are okay. We're going to learn from them, and we are going to be creative problem solvers. So, last value I'm going to talk to you guys about today before I kind of wrap up is courage. Oh, I guess I might have another one. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think courage as a value is super important. I guess I have my top 5. They vacillate a little bit, but these are currently some of my favorite ones to talk about. Oh, wow. I just get to challenge myself with this every day. Like, courage as a way that we show up in our relationships. Like, okay, so this is my boundary. This doesn't feel safe for me. How can I communicate this to someone in my life in a loving way? how do I have more integrity? Like, it's not always easy to lead from the heart, but keep doing it. And just if I can create this environment of courage, then I know that it will be manifested in my children, that they get to have some of these values. They might not have the top 5 that I have in the same order or anything like that, but I know that if I'm courageous, then my children will be more courageous. Okay, so I am going to talk to you about my last one, community, really briefly, because to me, it creates the context for teaching the values. So if I want my child to learn kindness, if I want my child to value community, I get to be super intentional about the people I have around him. I get to be super intentional about, yeah, who those people are, and then the way that we choose to interact with them and the value that we place on those relationships being the context for teaching unconditional love, growth, creativity, courage, and obviously community. So thank you guys so much for listening and for being a part of this very first podcast. I'd love to hear more about your values and how this conversation of shifting the way that we choose to lead our families landed with you. Have you been stuck in your story, your stress about the way that things currently are? Does focusing on the goal help you to see a path to get to where you want to be? Thanks again for listening and have the most wonderful day. Bye. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you know that you want to have a great relationship with a young person in your life, but you are still struggling, I have an opportunity for you. I am a parenting teens strategy specialist with years of experience working with parents to build stronger, more connected, peaceful relationships with their kids. And I am filling the last handful of spots in my Best Mom Ever private program. If you love what you hear and you know you need more support, book a free Trust and Freedom Breakthrough call with me. On that call, we'll have the opportunity to get clear on what you really want in your relationship with your teenager, figure out what might be missing from your parenting strategy, discover what might be blocking your relationship and keeping you from that closeness, and really learn how to make your young person want to share what's going on with them, their heart. Okay? We'll discover what it takes to get the peaceful, connected relationship that you want, even if you think it's too late. These calls will be available for a limited time, and they are free, so go ahead and grab one. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.